This is from August 2016, the heat of the 2016 election race where Trump is running against Hillary Clinton, and they're talking about Syria.
And so I don't think I was as clear with you and your viewers as I should have been. So let me try to make this clear.
This gets spicy, watch.
The Syrian civil war has to end. And the reason it has to end is because it is feeding extremism in Iraq and Syria.
Remember, as he's saying this, the Obama State Department says ISIS is on our side in Syria. Literally, as would come out the following year by Julian Assange, as he is lying through his teeth to Charlie Rose and his audience, saying the problem with this Syrian civil war, where there's only a civil war because half the country's civilian class is being supported as terrorist rebels by the CIA to overthrow the stable government of Assad. And he's saying the problem is it wouldn't happen if we weren't causing it, but there's this darn civil war where we're backing these moderate rebels, it's giving rise to ISIS. But in classified cables from the State Department, they're saying, good, because ISIS is on our side. They're killing Assad's government.
Even if we get our arms around ISIS and squeeze ISIS down and down and down and down, the civil war will continue to breed extremism.
He's telling Charlie Rose, listen, it doesn't matter whether we stop ISIS or not, There'll just be another ISIS. What he wants to say but can't because he's not in a skiff is we're leaving ISIS alone. We're actually training ISIS and giving weapons to ISIS because they're on our side. He's saying don't focus on ISIS because even if we stop them, there'll be a new ISIS. But he knows that's not true because they're the ones supplying the arms to ISIS. So what he has to say is don't focus on ISIS because there'll be another ISIS anyway. Not don't focus on ISIS because we want to keep ISIS because they're on our side.
ISIS will go away and some other group will replace it. The Syrian civil war needs to end, okay? In my view, there is not a military solution to that. And the reason there's not a military solution to that is because a military solution would end up with the destruction of the Syrian military, the Syrian security services, Syrian intelligence services, et cetera, Syrian police. And if you destroy all of those in an attempt to end the civil war, you are left with a complete vacuum, security vacuum, stability vacuum. You end up with Libya.
Or Iraq.
Right? Iraq.
After the fall of Saddam.
So what we want is, instead of having the DOD be the spearhead, we are going to have the CIA be the spearhead for regime change. And this is what gave rise to what was known as Operation Timber Sycamore. The most expensive on record, because Ukraine far eclipses that. They just haven't disclosed it yet. Operation Timber Sycamore in Syria was the largest U.S. regime change operation acknowledged by no less than Wikipedia. A U.S.-led effort by the CIA, the most expensive CIA operation in CIA history other than Ukraine, to train, equip, and arm the CIA-backed paramilitary rebels in Syria. The aim of the program was to remove the Syrian president from power. He's saying we don't want totally level Syria. We want the infrastructure in place so that we can just loot all of the resources there efficiently. But that means we need to be in command of the government, in command of the territory. So we want a vassal state with a puppet president who answers to the U.S. State Department instead of an organic president who answers to the Syrian people. So this is not a job for DOD. DOD will oversee it, but DOD should delegate it to the CIA to have a paramilitary-backed regime change operation instead of a bombs over Baghdad kinetic military one.
After the de-Baathification decision, right, which what caused the whole thing. So you don't want to do that. So there's not a military solution to this. There is only a political solution to this.
By the way, they wanted the military option. The other thing he doesn't want to say is that when they tried it, Russia backstopped the Syrians with S-400 air defense systems, which destroyed the ability for the U.S. Air Force to do a bombs over Baghdad operation. The S-400 missile defense system was the top air defense technology in the world, better than anything even the Americans have. And when Russia came in and backstopped Syria on that, it ended the Pentagon capability with its then budget to pull off the military operation. That's why it transitioned to primarily a CIA one, but he can't say that either.
And that political solution is, in my view, a transition of power from Assad to a transitional government
A regime change. Hey, whatever happened to paragraph 1 of the national security strategy? Territorial integrity, political sovereignty, self-determination. Hey, why is the CIA director telling another country they have to remove their president and replace them with a transitional government? Hey, that sounds like a violation of Article 1 of the UN Declaration on Human Rights, doesn't it? The international rules-based order are rules for little people. The blob's golden rule. He who's in the blob makes the rules.
That represents all of the Syrian people.
So the Syrian people have Assad as their president, representing the Assyrian people. But the CIA director in checks notes, Langley, Virginia, says, no. All of the people need to be in the room. All of the Syrian people, except all of the Syrian people who support Assad. But they need to say that because, again, the way they try to sneak back into the rules-based international order is by saying, well, it's democracy, so it has the support of the people. So we need to astroturf a fake political movement within Syria that supports the puppet transitional president we put in after we overthrow Assad. That's the blob speak translation here.
That is only going to happen if Assad wants it to happen, if Russia wants it to happen, and if Iran wants it to happen. So what we need to do is we need to increase our leverage over those three people and groups, those three people and countries, in order to get them more interested in having a conversation about a transition to a new government.
Okay, this is so important. He says, the problem is right now, the Assad government is too stable. We've already spent billions of dollars trying to unseat Assad. He's still in power. We haven't shaken his control. He's being backstopped by Russia and Iran. So we're going to need Assad to want to leave power. We're going to need Russia to want to no longer support Syria. We're going to need Iran to want to no longer support Syria. Our current efforts are failing. So what do we need to do? We need to create leverage to make them want to step down. We need to create leverage over Assad so that Assad wants to step down from being president. We need to create leverage on Russia so that Russia wants to no longer support them. Think like a CIA director. The State Department negotiations are not going well. The military operations have been foiled. So you need to create leverage to go back to that negotiating table. And how do you do so? And what you will hear him say is, we're going to create that leverage by making it so painful on Assad that he wants to leave office. So painful on Russia that they no longer want to militarily backstop the Assad government. And you're going to hear him say, we're going to make it painful on Assad because we are going to assassinate everyone around him. We are going to destabilize his personal life. His loved ones and bodyguards and chefs are going to disappear in the dead of night. Planes carrying people he knows are going to go down mysteriously. Russians are going to be dead in droves in body bags by our CIA-backed paramilitaries until they're bleeding so heavily that Assad wants to step down to make the bleeding stop. And the Russians want to pull out so that their own countrymen stop dying. That's thinking like a CIA director.
That's exactly what the 51 diplomats
It's exactly what the 51 diplomats
said in their letter.
The 51 diplomats said in their letter. Oh, that's interesting because Michael Morell seems to have a thing for 51. 51 diplomats sent a letter in 2016. Michael Morell organized 51 spies who lied about the Hunter Biden laptop. Again, diplomats, CIA, same thing, right?
You know, sometimes you use military force for military ends. Sometimes you use military force to give you political leverage.
And there it is. This is what the political military affairs branch of the military is. This is what most of the $900 billion of the Pentagon budget goes towards. Creating leverage for the political, not for national security. Remember, we saw political military was Michael Morell's consulting firm co-founder partner's background. It was also Henry Kissinger's background. It was Bill Burns's background. Political military. We don't have that much military need, but the military can create leverage so the State Department can swoop in and get a favorable deal.
And one of the reasons to be involved in Syria, which is what Vladimir Putin is now discovering, is when you get involved militarily, all of a sudden you're a player in how the game gets discussed around the table, right? So what I tried to say was, look, we need to find some ways to put some pressure on Assad, to put some pressure on Russia, and to put some pressure on Iran.
This is thinking like the CIA. You are not doing it because you're an evil son of a... I mean, you are in many of these cases, but that's not what's driving it. It's not done in a vacuum. You're doing it for a very specific purpose, to create leverage. And there's only two things you can do on that front. There's carrots and there's sticks. You can offer someone a benefit or you can induce a punishment. So you can either bribe or extort. Bribe them with money or extort them with consequences. And then you go back to the negotiating table with the new carrots and sticks that you've obtained through your cloak and dagger black ops operation.
Now, with regard to Russia and Iran, what I said, what I wanted to say was, look, the moderate opposition, which the United States is supporting, and everybody knows that.
Everyone knows it, so I can't lie to you, unfortunately. But notice how they say it's the moderate opposition, just like the independent media. Moderate, they're killing everyone. They're carrying out terrorist attacks, and they're using CIA weapons, and you're literally training them in Turkey. In fact, you're flying a lot of them directly to training schools in the United States on fast-pass, no-look visas, just so they're better equipped to carry out terrorist attacks. But moderate. They're moderate to us because they're not carrying out terrorist attacks on us. So they're moderate because they're doing terrorism to our targets.
Right? The moderate opposition is already fighting the Syrian government, and they're already fighting Russians and Iranians who are fighting with.
Killing. The CIA-backed terrorists are killing backers of the Assad government, the Russians and the Iranians.
And in fact, that's who those bombers coming from Iran are bombing in Syria.
Exactly,
the moderate opposition, and they are making the battle against Assad.
How much different does that sentence say if you just replace it for what it is, the terrorist opposition? But there are terrorists. Every time you hear the word moderate here, just substitute the word terrorist. And then mouthwash, gargle it around. See how that tastes in your mouth when you just change the frame a little bit.
In Aleppo, for the future of Aleppo, where there's so much of a human catastrophe.
Right. So one of the wars that's going on, right, is the Syrian military, supported by Russia and the Iranians, fighting the moderate opposition. And the moderate opposition is already...
Why didn't you say supported by us? You just said everyone knows it. The sentence makes it sound like the entire struggle over Syria is a proxy war between us and Russia. But it's supposed to be about what the people of Syria want for their own government, right? But you don't want to say that, even though you just suggested it in your previous sentence, because you know that that makes the framing a little too objective for the audience, doesn't it?
Is already killing Iranians and Syrians. What I said is that's an okay thing, right? Because
these moderates are slaughtering Syrians, Russians, and Iranians. And look what he says. He says, that's a good thing. And then he catches himself and he says, that's an okay thing. Hey, ref, flag on the field. Run that back. We need a replay.
What I said is that's an okay thing.
That's a good thing. Oh, wait, I'm on national TV. That's an okay thing. They're killing everyone. They're killing Syrians. They're killing Russians. They're killing Iranians. That's a good thing. Oh, shit, I'm on TV. That's an okay thing. They beat it into me, precision of language. Oh, shit, I forgot I'm being recorded. This is what I just said to the guy in the lunchroom. Yeah, it's amazing. Kill them all. Oh, wait, I'm sorry. Democracy. Moderates.
Right, because it puts pressure on Iran and Russia to try to see some value in ending this thing politically.
In our favor. It's a good thing that CIA-backed terrorists are slaughtering Syrians, Russians, and Iranians. It's a good thing because it creates leverage for the CIA. It creates leverage for the State Department, because then we can talk to the Russians and say, man, you guys lost 3,000 people this week. You're going to lose 30,000 people in the next month. You can make the pain stop if you simply cease support for the Syrian government. Assad, all your people are getting slaughtered by CIA-backed terrorists. You can make the pain stop if you really love your country. If you just step down, and then we won't touch you. So murder as an instrument of statecraft. Then they'll see some value in the proposition pitch by the State Department to transition their government to a new government who is a vassal state of the blob.
And what I said is we should encourage, what I wanted to say was that we should encourage the moderate opposition to continue to do that.
We should encourage the moderate opposition to keep slaughtering and homiciding and genociding Syrians, Russians, and Iranians. We should encourage them to do more terrorism. Do you understand why Michael Morell, in the Charlie Rose interview we just watched, hated Trump's policy ending no-look fast-pass visas for Syrian terrorists? Because it limits the ability of the CIA to bribe these Syrian terrorists who go out and kill for their CIA oversight overlords because in return, they'll get citizenship to the United States and a good life here? It's because his job was working with those terrorists and encouraging them to kill Syrians, Russians, and Iranians, because that adds to the leverage created by the CIA for the State Department to then use to negotiate a favorable political settlement that results in a vassal state government where the blob can then exploit the entire region, take all the oil, take all the minerals, take over the country, and have another 51st state just like Ukraine.
And perhaps even get a little bit more aggressive.
And look what else he said here.
And perhaps even get a little bit more aggressive. You were not suggesting the United States should do.
So Charlie Rose talks over him here, but you heard at the end what he says is we should encourage them to be even a little more aggressive. Kill even more Russians. Kill even more Iranians. Kill even more Syrians, you moderates. You should be even more aggressively moderate. By the way, do you understand now in Ukraine everything that you hear from the CIA and DOD and State Department class around why we need offensive long-range weapons to kill Russians and make Russians bleed in their own country? It's the same thing. It's the exact same thing. It's the same logic. It's the same playbook. It's the same players. It's not because we think we can militarily take over Russia that way. We're losing on the battlefield currently, so Russia does not want to agree to a ceasefire where they give the land back. But if we kill enough of them, if we bomb St. Petersburg, if we bomb Moscow, if we do long-range strikes and enough Russians are dead, Russia may say, you know what, actually, we'll give the Donbass back. We'll give Crimea back. And the world will go back to what it was immediately post-State Department coup in 2014. That's why they're doing it, backing the moderate Nazis of the Azov Battalion.
And perhaps even get a little bit more aggressive. You were not suggesting the United States should do that.
You were suggesting that the moderate forces on the ground.
And I think
Look at that smile. I was not suggesting CIA do it. I was suggesting the moderates that the CIA is funding, training, and telling to kill people do the killing. I was not suggesting we kill all these Syrians, Russians, and Iranians. I was suggesting we pay people to do it. I wasn't suggesting murder. I was suggesting murder for hire. It's totally different than that beaming smile for the camera.
Not suggesting the United States should do that. You were suggesting that the moderate forces on the ground.
And I think I came across as saying U.S. Special Forces should go in there and start killing Iranians and Russians. I did not mean that.
I was saying that the U.S. Special Forces should work with, train, and send out the murder for hires to do it. And perhaps be a little more aggressive. Be a little bit more aggressively moderate.
So that's Russia and Iran. Now, Assad. How do you put some pressure on Assad?
Buy him roses? Promise him humanitarian aid? Oh, that's too expensive. Hey, maybe let him run his own country, right? Isn't that the UN Declaration on Human Rights? Isn't that self-determination, political sovereignty? Let's see, think like a CIA director. How do you make someone who's currently president and likes being president no longer want to be president? Let's hear it from the horse's mouth.
And here I did argue, Charlie, that the U.S. military itself should take some action. And what I would see as valuable is limited, very, very, very limited U.S. airstrikes against those assets that are extremely important to Assad personally. So in the middle of the night, you destroy one of his offices. You don't kill anybody, right? Zero collateral. You do this with zero collateral, same rules of engagement that we use against terrorists.
But often zero collateral is hard to do.
It's hard to do, but you go into it with that goal, right?
So find things that are dear to him personally. Blow them up. Yeah, we may kill people, but it'll be an accident. You go into it with the mentality, oh, wow, 300 dead. Oh, darn. Airstrike missed it by that much.
That's what's important. You go into it with that goal, and you take that seriously when you're doing your targeting. You take out his presidential aircraft, his presidential helicopters in the middle of the night.
In the middle of the night. Notice everything's in the middle of the night. Think like a CIA director. You take out his presidential aircraft. You take out his helicopters. Everything he owns blows up in the middle of the night. You think he's still going to be president if his car just blew up in the middle of the night outside of his house? You terrorize him personally so that he thinks if he continues to be president, maybe his wife or his son could have been in that car in the middle of the night. So he wants to step down. And the State Department can pick the next president who will turn over all of the assets and oil to the U.S. because they've so personally terrorized this person into thinking he's going to be assassinated and that his loved ones are going to all die all around him. That will give the State Department leverage to then talk to Assad's diplomats and say, listen, this can all stop and you'll be safe and sound. Just resign.
Right? Just to send him a message and to get his attention that maybe your days are numbered here, right? Just to put some pressure on him to think about, maybe I need to think about a way out of this.
First of all, it's nasty enough. The U.S. seized Maduro's jet when it was in Costa Rica, right? But that's seizing it. They're talking about having the special forces physically blow it up in the dead of night. He's saying this publicly. Imagine what he says in a skiff. Mike Morell, CIA director under Obama. This is the guy who organized the 51 spies who lied about Hunter Biden laptop memo. And he's saying this publicly on what was then the most popularly celebrated one-on-one interview in America, Charlie Rose.